Welcome back, everyone. This is Zach Edwards with another episode of the Adventure Box Podcast, brought to you by these guys, Historical Conquest. This is a podcast where we try to have fun with games. Fun with history. Actually, Historical Conquest is all about having fun with games, learning about history, but having fun, just games. That's the most important part. Having fun with history, whether you're playing games or you're listening to this podcast, that's what we do. So today we're going to be talking about something that I find very fascinating. So last time we were talking about Cyrus the Great. He was the Persian emperor that came in and took over most of the known world. But they didn't stop there. That was Persia. Persia expanding came out. So let me show you a picture just in case you need a reminder. This is Persia. Basically everywhere that Iran was. From the Zagros Mountains all the way to the, Indus Valley. Now, at the same time, close this down and close that. So you can see all this different area around them. This is what we call now the Middle East, but it's actually, to scientists, to historians, archaeologists, it's called the Near East. Because the East is over here, the West is over here, and this is like the middle ground between the two, which is why we call it the Middle East, but it's because it's near the East that they actually call it the Near East. Anyways, so let's keep going. So this is Iran. Now, Darius the Great, that's what they call him, the great factor is the fact that he spread out his empire even larger than Cyrus the Great. Every time it has a great afterwards, it's because they expanded their empire in this area. So you have Alexander the Great, you have Darius the Great, you have Cyrus the Great. So today we're going to be diving into an incredible story of Darius the Great, the Persian ruler who took the Achaemenid Empire. Now, I always say that wrong. So just for fun, I actually brought an explainer in here how to say it.
Achaemenid or Achaemenid.
Achaemenid. So it's the Achaemenid Empire.
Achaemenid or Achaemenid.
There you go. Achaemenid Empire. Try it again.
Achaemenid or Achaemenid.
That's right. So that is the way to pronounce. Oh, wait a second. It's about to start again. It's the way to pronounce the empire that was basically Persia. So the empire is the Achaemenid, but it was actually all of Persia. Now, go back to this image. This is basically where Persia was. The Achaemenid came up into Turkey, went back into the Indus Valley, went down into Egypt, and even came up a little bit into Eastern Europe and also more into Asia. So it spread out. Now that coming into Turkey and going into the Indus Valley, that was Cyrus the Great. Darius is the one that came into, well, Cambyses, Cyrus's son, actually came into Egypt. Darius actually just expanded it a little bit more in each direction. I think he wanted the title of Great, right? No, I don't know. No clue. So at the same time, Darius didn't inherit the throne. He took it through political maneuvers and military strategy. His rise to power is filled with intrigue and deception and all these other things. So the death of Cambyses, remember the son of Cyrus the Great, that's when it all starts. So let's go a little bit back before we get to Darius. Let's go a little bit back. Before Darius, the Persian Empire was ruled by Cambyses. Cambyses, yes. Son of Cyrus, also known as the Great. Now, Cambyses, interesting enough, was not known as the Great. For some reason, I don't know. I'll have to look a little bit more into that. But Cambyses actually went into Egypt, furthering what his father was doing. Now, after Cambyses mysteriously died, that's right, he was killed, most likely. We just don't know. And this is around 522 BC. After that mysterious death, a man claimed to be his brother. His name was Bardiya. Bardiya, or actually his other name was Smerdis, seized the throne. So he took the throne. Now, he was not actually allotted this throne because from Cyrus, it was supposed to go to Cambyses II. Now, Cambyses didn't actually have a predecessor, which is why when somebody dies and they don't have a predecessor, you have all these people jumping in saying, I want the throne. This is my throne. I'm his brother. Oh, I'm his brother. I'm his sister. And everyone's going to try to take over that place. So they're trying to seize that throne. But something was off about Bardiya. Some believed he was an imposter, a Magian priest, posing as royalty. So he didn't actually get the power. He stepped in, but they would not allow him to have full power. Basically, in this time, in the ancient times, they had a lot of advisors and a lot of people that actually ran the empire for someone like Cyrus or somebody like Cambyses. But they would not actually relinquish that power unless they actually found a person that was worthy of the throne in their mind. So that was very interesting. If you didn't have someone that was supposed to take over, an heir to the throne, those advisors would actually start taking that throne, basically taking the power, even though they didn't fill the throne. And they would find someone to fill that throne. Now, Darius, he was a noble person, a nobleman, and a relative of Cyrus. So he was actually related, but he was not an heir. He actually led a coup, which means a takeover of the government, with 6 other Persian nobles, and assassinated the false brother, Bardiya, or again, Smerdis. So we call him the False Smerdis. This was in 1522 BC. Done, deal, guy's dead. They assassinated him. Well, now you have 6 Persian nobles and Darius. Now, Darius was leading it, so he consolidated his power. He basically worked his way into getting the power of all other 6 Persian nobles. Now, some actually worked with him, but he basically crushed everyone else. So after taking the throne, Darius faced massive revolts. Again, there was those that believed in Bardiya, or the False Smerdis. There were some that followed after the 6 other noble Persian men. So during this time, he had internal strife, but that wasn't the end of it. They also had Egypt started to rebel. Now, at this point, they didn't lose Egypt. They didn't lose him yet. They will, because at this point, once we get there, you're going to have the Greeks coming down. His name is Alexander. What do you think it is? The Great, right? Okay. So Alexander the Great comes down and actually takes Egypt. But before that point, Egypt starts to rebel. So Darius has a revolt going on in one of his provinces. Now, that's not the only one. So you have Egypt here. They're rebelling. But you also have Babylon, who is also rebelling. So 2 different groups. Now remember, Persia took over Babylon. Now Babylon is trying to get their independence. Now, but that's not the only ones. The eastern provinces resisted Persian rule as well. Eastern provinces. The Indus Valley. The Asian countries that he actually had control over. Not much, but there were some Asian countries, such as like Afghanistan, which is more of the Indus Valley, but that's not to be talked about. Okay, so it took over a year of military campaigning for Darius to basically crush each one of those rebellions. He crushed each of them individually and one at a time. He did not trust a lot of his nobles or others to take over that land and basically give it up. So he was in full control over every time they would actually attack. Darius didn't rule through conquest, though, just so you know. Remember Cyrus, he created the cylinders. He liberated some different places, like the kingdom of Judah. At the same time, Egypt did not like him there. So Darius, when he came in, he was a master administrator. So he went in and he managed these areas. Even with a rebellion, he managed these areas. He divided his empire into what they call satrapies, or provinces. So satrapies are basically areas such as, like, Egypt would be one. This Canaan would be one. Turkey would be one, also known as Lydia. Indus Valley would be a section. And each of these provinces were ruled by a satrap. Satrap? A satrap, or a governor, making the governance efficient and stable. So once the rebellions were taken over, that's when he put the governors in charge of taking over that land and ruling over that land. And if one fell, he kept a strong eye on those satraps, those governors, in order to make sure that none of them actually tried to take control over those lands. So he had an iron fist on top of everyone. He was like Cyrus with a military type background of military superiority, or a military superiority complex. So he was someone that still ran with an iron fist. He introduced a unified system of taxation, though, and laws, and roads, and including making the royal road official. So yes, Cyrus is the one that started it, but it was Darius that is the one that actually created this improved highway, this communication system across the empire. So as his empire got bigger or more pronounced, he would send roads in order to trade and to communicate. And he'd send guards up and down these roads to make sure that there were not pillagers of some sort, bandits on the sides of the road, so people could actually get through safely. So let's talk about some of his military campaigns and expansions. Now remember, I said he didn't rule the land by military strategy. He put governors over each of the places. But he did actually gain these lands through military campaign. Darius was not content with just stabilizing the empire that Cyrus and Cambyses had created. So he wanted to expand it. His conquests included more of India. So remember, I was talking about Indus Valley. That's like Afghanistan, Pakistan. But he went into India, something that Cyrus the Great was not able to do. He then went into North Africa. So from Egypt, he came down into North Africa. And also up here in the east, Eastern Europe, and also parts of Lower Asia, Western Asia. So he was expanding. He wanted to expand as much as possible. So he had many different battles. Darius turned his attention westward towards Europe. This is his downfall, because who was also in power at that time? So he came into Turkey, into Lydia, but over here you had Greece, who was gaining power, gaining strength. So let's go into this. 513 BC, he crossed the Bosporus. Let's see. I'm going to find this for everyone. Bosporus. Right there. This is where Istanbul is now. It used to be Constantinople. And before that, I'm actually not quite sure what it was called. I need to find that out. He led his campaign across into what's called Thrace, or modern day Bulgaria and Greece. Now, again, well, in the Balkans. What was happening with Greece? They were starting to get powerful, right? They were starting to build up, and we'll talk about this. Let's see, we got Persia, and then next month we're going to be talking about Greece. So we're going to see it from the other point of view. This marked the first major Persian invasion into Europe. But while Thrace was subdued, the Greeks would not be so easy to conquer. So this is what happened. Let's talk about the Persian and Greek conflict. This is just the first one. This is the first one. This is the Ionian revolt. So in 499 BC, the Greek city-states, basically also called the Ionia, or modern-day Turkey, rebelled against Persian rule. So they started coming in to this area, to Turkey, started coming over, and this was under Persian rule. Well, the Greeks, they had areas in here that they owned, and the Persians took it over. So they started to rebel as well. We talked about Egypt rebelling, Babylon rebelling. Oh, and now there's the Greek city-states of Lydia in this area. Ionia. So I-O-N-I-A. Ionia. Okay. So Darius saw this was not just a rebellion. It wasn't just a normal rebellion like all the others. This was an act of complete defiance by the Greeks. Now, he knew that Greece was a lot bigger than just attacking that one area. So you had the Athenians, or Athens, and Eritrea. So two different ports. They were like their own provinces, their own areas in Greece. But they aided the rebellion against against Darius. And this actually angered him. So he famously declared, this is what he said. He said, "Grant me, O God, that I might punish Athens." And after 5 years of fighting, Darius finally crushed the revolt. But his desire for revenge would lead him to the first Persian invasion into Greece. Again, this is not Greece. This area that he's in is like claimed land by Greece, but not Greece. So he has not actually gone into Greece at this point. This is all Turkey, or Ionia. So Darius didn't just want to expand his empire through war. He also used diplomacy, alliances, and economic strength to maintain power. So this is the thing. Even though he had revenge, and even though he had this desire to go into Greece, he did not want to do it just through attacking militarily and beating them senseless until they submitted. So let's talk about some of the things that they did, the relationships that Darius had. So the first thing, and we're going to go more over the Greek invasion and such in just a little bit. I'm going to come back to that. So first off, when Darius interacted with another civilization, he would try to do it diplomatically first. He respected, say, like Egypt and their traditions. So he presented himself as a pharaoh, much like Cyrus the Great was going to, or like Alexander the Great did do. And he restored some of the temples. The problem is that Darius was not Egyptian born, and so a lot of the Egypts did not respect that. So he even ordered the completion of a canal linking the Nile to the Red Sea. Yeah, okay, let's check that out. Okay, so coming down here into Egypt. So we were just talking about all these different, or this invasion that he was doing, this military struggle that he did. But he also created, so over here is the Red Sea, right? You got the Red Sea down here, and you have the Nile. So he created a canal, which I'm actually not quite sure where it was. But he had them dig out a canal that would actually connect the Nile, which is through all these different, there's a lot of different waterways that the Nile creates. So here we go. Comes into here, comes out to all these different rivers, which is why this is all agriculture. This is all green and could actually be used as agriculture. But he created a canal, which might have been this one, to connect the Nile to the Red Sea. So it would come down, whew, come on, there we go, and connect into this canal and then down into the Red Sea. This is the Great Bitter Lake, and then down further into here, into the Gulf, see. Yep, there it is. The Gulf of the Red Sea. Gulf of, Suez. The Suez Canal, basically. Remember that? That's up. This is what we have right here, the Suez Canal. This is the canal that we have at this point that connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. And a lot of large shipping vessels go through here, especially from Europe, but also from like the United States. Or they come up through here, go through the Mediterranean, and go over to the United States. Though most of the time, that is way too expensive, because anywhere in the Middle East or Eastern Africa or even the Indus, they can just go across the Pacific and straight into the United States. No paying of any tolls to go through the canals, which can be very expensive. Okay, sorry, got off on that little track. So that's one of the things that he did for his relationships with Egypt. Now another one, Darius introduced a gold daric coin. So this is a coin that was the same throughout the empire. So everyone knew exactly how much something cost in trade. So if somebody came from the Indus Valley and then came into Egypt, it was a set cost. The daric would only pay for a certain amount of something when it comes to spices. Spices coming from the Indus Valley or India coming into Egypt had to be paid for by a certain gold daric. This actually made the Persian economy one of the strongest in the ancient world. Now, what else? Persians' vast empire allowed for trading networks stretching from India up to Greece, down to Egypt, and all over the place. So these are all part of his relationships he wanted to have with these countries. He did not want to rule with an iron fist, even though he did a lot of times, such as what would happen with Greece. So, and then the last thing is I want to talk about the Scythians. Now, do you remember 2 weeks ago we talked about the Scythians? No, it was last week. We talked about the Scythians. The Scythians, everyone was afraid of them. The Scythians were nomadic. So they wandered around from place to place, and then they gathered their strength when they wanted to attack a place. So Darius launched a large, massive campaign against the Scythians. And this was around the Black Sea, so up here. So the Scythians actually came mostly down here in this area, but they could have also come down a little bit over here, though they would have gone through Greece, which Greece did not like them either. So most likely they came through Eastern Europe and down into Turkey or down into the Persian Empire. And so he had this great campaign to take out the Scythians. And supposedly he actually stopped them. Despite a grand military effort, the Scythians used guerrilla warfare, guerrilla tactics, and actually forced Darius in the end to retreat. This is one of the few times that the Persian expansion failed and they were not able to get up here. So they came up, the Scythians fought back, and they retreated. Okay, now let's get back to Greece and what was happening over here. Now, the Persian Wars, this is one of the biggest, most well-known wars during this time period. Why is that? It's because the Egyptians were starting to gain a lot of power. Alexander the Great did not come into power yet, but he would fairly soon afterwards. If my printer would stop printing or cleaning, I'd get back into this. Okay, here we go. So Darius was the most famous, his most famous conflict was with those in Greece. This was known as the Greco-Persian Wars. Now, let's talk about the first one. The first invasion, it was around in 492. After crushing the Ionian revolt, we just talked about that, Darius sent a large Persian army into Greece. So 1492, they marched in across this strait right here over into Greece. Now Greece was not, like if you zoom out, you'll see Greece is like right here. But Greece was all this as well. Bulgaria, Serbia, this was basically Greek land. So he marched right into Greece. Now, this was the Persian conquest of Thrace and Macedonia, which don't actually apply or don't exist nowadays. But their fleet was destroyed by a storm before reaching Athens. So they came in by land and they came in by sea. Now, let me see if we can actually show you where Thrace is. Okay, there's a lot of different Thraces. As far as I know, Thrace is up here in this area. Okay. So they did take over Thrace, but their ships were not able to make it because of a great storm. Now, this set them back greatly. It was 2 years later in 490 BC that Darius sent another invasion force to attack Athens. Now, Athens, the actual city, is right here. Okay. This is where the fleet had to come through all these different islands and come up and attack Athens. Not by land this time, just by sea. So they came up to attack in 490 BC. Now, this is actually the start of what? The Battle of Marathon. Okay, this was where the Persians landed. Actually, Marathon. So let's find out where Marathon is. Marathon, Greece. So they landed their ships in Marathon. Right here. And from there, they marched on into Athens. This is also where you found out about or heard about the 300. So the Greeks had a group that was very well known. Who were they? They were can you remember their names? The 300. They were a trained force from birth to be able to defeat huge. Their whole life was based on war and military. Do you know who it is? It was the Spartans. Except this is not the Spartans yet. Sorry, I was actually a little bit wrong. So in 490, it was not the Spartans at this time. They were not fighting the Spartans. This was actually in 490, the Battle of Marathon. They expected an easy victory. They marched from, again, Marathon to Athens, and it was 26 miles away. It was the Athenians, not the Spartans yet, led by Miltiades. Oh, he fought back with superior tactics. So in a shocking defeat, the Persians lost 6,000 men. Again, this is not even talking about the 300 with the Spartans. That's the Battle of Thermopylae. This is another one where they lost, again, only 192 men, the Greeks did. Now, again, this is according to the Greeks writing this down. So we don't actually know if it's 100% true. Because, again, 300 holding off thousands during the Battle of Thermopylae basically has the same question or issue. Did that actually happen? That 300 could hold off thousands. Okay, so Darius planned a revenge attack. So Darius had this, he had this ego that he had to get something done when he wanted it. And if you didn't, if you were the ones leading, he would punish you for it. So Darius planned a massive invasion. Another one. This was in 486. So this is 4 years later because they got crushed by the Athens. The Athenians only lost 192 people. So this invasion was to crush Greece once and for all. But before he could launch it, he died in 486. What? Yeah, he died in 486. So he did not actually get to go in with into Athens, and his invasion basically went away for a time. This is when Xerxes, his son, Xerxes I, would continue the war, leading to the famous Battle of Thermopylae and also Salamis. Now, let's see, I don't remember if we're exactly going into that next week. I know we're going to be talking about tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the culture and everything else that he did. Maybe I will look into it to see if we're actually going to be providing more information on the Battle of Thermopylae. Again, we're talking about Persia. We're not talking about Greece. That's next month. So let me look into that. I will get back to you, and we're going to find out if we actually talk about this. And you know what? I'm just going to bring it up right now because it's right in front of me. I'll bring it up right now. Yeah, I'll either talk about it tomorrow or on Thursday, or I will talk about it afterwards. So, or next week. So I will get back to you on that. But we will actually talk about the 300 in the Battle of Thermopylae and what happened. But until next time, let's go over and do a recap so you can remember what's going on. And I'm going to leave you with some action questions. Okay, so Darius left behind one of the greatest legacies in world history. He expanded the Persian Empire to its largest extent. This is the furthest it's ever been. He reorganized the government, created a model empire. Like, this is picture perfect of how a empire should be, for the Persians at least. He built the royal road. Well, it was already started, but he finished it and improved it. And so with that improvement, he improved trade and also communications. And he set the stage for a famous Greco-Persian war, and which would follow through Xerxes' son after he dies. So his leadership made Persia the most powerful empire of all time. Now, that is until Alexander the Great came around. And we're going to get into him as well. But his influence, meaning Darius's influence, can still be seen in modern-day Iran today. So let's do a final wrap-up. Here we go. Darius the Great wasn't just a conqueror. He was a builder. He was a reformer. He was a strategist. Now, he did actually have a mean side. Iron fist. Revenge. His empire stretched from India to Greece. And unless he was deterred for a very good reason, much like going against the Scythians, he would not stop until it was done. If he says, I'm going to take over Greece, he would go over and take over Greece unless he died, which he did in the time that he was trying to get that. So let's go through a question for you. This is your action question. What do you think was Darius's greatest achievement? Let me know. Put it in my social media. Put it in the comments below. Love to hear what you have to say. Email me and I'll share it on over the air. Please let us know what you think. Let us know what we can do better. Let us know what your answer is. Again, what do you think was Darius's greatest achievement? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into Darius the Great and the expansion that happened with the Persian Empire through his leadership. Be sure to tune in next time as we talk about the culture, the arts, and I will throw in Xerxes as well, and the fall in the end of the Persian Empire. Actually, that's going to be on Monday, but we're going to talk about Thermopylae a little bit. But Xerxes, his part, will be at the end. His part of Greece, the Greco Wars, will push to tomorrow, and then we'll talk about the whole fall on Monday. So stay tuned. Keep up with us. Love to have you here. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.